Welcome in to the Indianapolis Colts preview for the 2025 season here on Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. She is Alex White. And Alex, this is one of the more perplexing teams going into the year because of uncertainty at the most important position in the game of football.
That's right. Of course, we saw the Anthony Richardson experiment the last couple of years. It's been a lot of ups and downs there for him, and now it is going to be a competition between him and Daniel Jones. So with all that being said, I like this team. I just don't know if I like either one of them in the most important position.
You know, it's super interesting with Indianapolis. Of course, in the AFC South, a division that you and I look at as, if it's not the weakest division in the NFL, it is the second weakest division in the NFL. It's still, even after all these years, even the AFC and the NFC South still continue to just not produce. But you look at the way that this offseason went for Indianapolis. By the way, Colts and the Jags both at 7.5 win totals. But as you see, even though Jacksonville's listed below Indianapolis on our screen, all of Jacksonville's odds are shorter than the Colts. Colts plus 190 to make the playoffs, 3-1 to win the division, 70-1 to win the AFC, and then $1.50 to win the Super Bowl. But it just comes down to what we were talking about in the open here. This is a true quarterback competition between two guys that were top 10 picks. And of course, Daniel Jones now on team number 3. Yes, he had to stop in Minneapolis last year, even though he didn't play at all for the Vikings. And you have Richardson, who has dealt with injuries, who has dealt with last year benching himself because he was tired and then got benched because of it.
Yeah.
Came back, had one really good start against the Jets, had a few good other mixed in appearances, but it's been more bad than good so far. And you look at those numbers on the bottom of your screen from FanDuel. Richardson is a small favorite to be the week 1 starter, which I'm not so sure is right. Now, the good news for Colt, for like good or bad news, depending on what you feel, if you're a Colt backer or fan, Richardson is going to be limited for about the first 10 days of training camp, but we'll be ready to fully throw at full length by then. But Alex, it's so interesting when you have a roster where it's been a long time since the Colts have had strength on defense like they have roster-wise going into this year. They actually have some depth at the wide receiver position. Their top 3, even though it's not the sexiest of names, is a really good 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, they used big-time draft capital on a tight end with Tyler Warren at number 13.
Yeah.
So I didn't even mention Jonathan Taylor.
Nope.
So, the roster build is there. It is, I don't want to simplify it, but it really comes down to what are you getting out of Richardson or Jones, and what are you getting out of Shane Steichen, who 2 years ago almost got this team to win the division with Gardner Minshew for basically the whole season. And then last year, obviously, even though it was an 8-9, it felt like it was a falling flat 8-9 more so than anything.
No, it definitely did. And it is impressive, 17-17 over those last couple of years for Shane Steichen, which really feels like he hasn't had a whole lot to work with. And now there definitely has been some upgrades for this Colts team. I'm a big believer in if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I feel here with these two. I mean, you have Anthony Richardson, who is a dual threat. He can definitely use his legs. He had 11 rushing touchdowns last year, but it's the throwing that we need to see more of, with a career completion rate of 51%, 11 passing touchdowns to 13 INTs, not good. And Daniel Jones on the other side, we really saw a huge fall off for him since his best year in New York, that 2022 season, where he really did take care of the football and had 15 touchdowns to just 5 INTs. But it makes it really tough. And you mentioned it, wide receivers, you're right. Usually you have a true 1, and there's a pretty big gap between the 3. All 3 of these guys are above average. They all have about the same numbers there with Pittman and Pierce and down. So I do think it could be a good year if one of these guys really works out. It's a true competition. The other interesting thing is I don't agree with that market. I do think the Jags and the Colts should be right there with the win totals. I don't think the Jags should be favored that much to make a huge leap over either the Colts or the Titans. So that's what does make it tough to really like dive into this division.
And also, too, I didn't even mention A.D. Mitchell, who is, of course, the fourth wide receiver, and Colts used high-end second-round capital on him in the 2024 draft. So, again, Indy has good receiver depth. It's been a while since it's felt like they've had high-end receiver depth. They have it. It's just going to be a matter of getting those guys the ball. And, Alex, you look at the schedule. Again, you have the advantage of playing 6 games against a weaker division. You cross with the with the NFC West, which is, all things considered, it's a pretty good cross. The AFC West is not a good cross, as we already have talked about with other teams. But look, if Indianapolis is going to have a year where they overachieve, we're going to learn quickly. Because the first 8 weeks of the season, before they get to Pittsburgh in week 9, so just looking at those first 8, they're going to be dogs on the road at both the Rams and the Chargers. Other than that, you can make an argument that they should or could be favored in every other game on the board. I know that some will probably argue with me on Denver week 2. That game was at Mile High. Obviously, the Broncos, no doubt, would be favored. And if Denver wins their first game against Tennessee convincingly, Denver probably will be a road favorite in Indy in week 2. But look, if you're the Colts, that's basically a flip against Miami. It's a winnable game against Denver. It is the first home game for Cam Ward week 3, but it's a game you got to find a way to win if you're going to compete. The Raiders and the Cardinals at home, those are games you have to win. Same with the Titan home game. There's a path to start 5-3, 6-2 even, if the quarterback play is there. But if the quarterback play is there, again, these games are so coin flippy for the most part. If you told me Indy started 2-6 and the lights are out before he even reached that week 10 bye, yeah, I could see it. But you really, if you're the Colts, and we say that about every team, but you're going to tell what they are quickly. Because if they get out to a 4-4 start, guess what? They're probably going 8-9 again or 7-10. If they get out better than that, all right, they can win the AFC South, especially if Houston takes a step back. If they get out poorly, boy, last place is in play. Because if Tennessee improves at all with Cam Ward at quarterback instead of Will Levis, last place is in play. And then that's a whole regime change coming in Indianapolis.
Makes it very difficult to handicap. I did have them going about 4-4 to start the year in those first 8 games. And then there's a brutal stretch down there, and they got the Chiefs and the Texans, so those will be tough. We're going at Pittsburgh, but then I do have them getting 2 more at the bottom there against the Jags, potentially. Seahawks could be another coin flippy, so it is tough. I'm with you, though. If there was a time that they could overachieve, a year that they could overachieve, they really could do it this year. And Houston kind of hasn't made any huge strides as of late. We'll see where we are with them. But I do think that this division could be up for grabs. Just are the Colts the team to do it?
Well, and you mentioned the back end of the schedule. It gets progressively more difficult after the bye week. Now, the one thing that works in the Colts' favor, you'd like to see the Titans on the back end, but you don't. But you have 4 divisional games in that week 12 and beyond stretch. The out of division games, you know what? Winning at Seattle, yeah, it's difficult, but you know what? The Seahawks on paper look pretty average going into the year. Yeah, they'll be a dog at Kansas City, and a nice sized one at that, as we know, and they'll be a dog more likely than not at home against San Francisco, unless if the bottom has dropped out on the Niners this year. So again, there are opportunities here for Indianapolis if the quarterback play. Even if the quarterback play is league average, they can win the AFC South.
Yeah,
they really can with Jones and Richardson, because this defense, we haven't touched on it a lot. I really like this defense. They have a lot of talent in comparison to what they've had over the last decade. Of course, Buckner is still there. Lotto had a huge rookie year. You would expect him to go forward again. Grover Stewart had a big year as well up front. I didn't even mention, of course, former first-round pick Kwity Paye in that. He might be the 4th best guy on that D-line. That's a pretty darn good D-line if that happens to be the case. You improve the secondary. You bring in Ward from San Francisco. You bring in Cam Bynum to shore up the safety position for Minnesota. This is a defense, and of course, Zaire Franklin's still there. This is a defense that has a lot of pieces. Now, the question on the defensive side of the ball, of course, Gus Bradley out. Lou Amaruno in. Amaruno, of course, ran out of Cincinnati after that disastrous year from the Bengals defense, but Amaruno is a upgrade over what Gus Bradley brought by the end. At Indy, there is a path where the Colts could have a top 10 defense, top 8 defense. Wouldn't shock me, which again would come back to how bad is the quarterback play, or if it happens to be reasonable. Yeah, you know what? Indy at 3-1 to win the division. There are worse 3-1 bets that are out there if this Colt quarterback situation doesn't end up blowing up in their face.
I agree. I really like the upgrades that they did make in the secondary. Their defense definitely needed it. 2024 came in 24th in scoring defense and 29th in total defense. So I like the additions that they made. I do think that they can be very good this year. And the weapons, we already talked about them. So it all really comes down to quarterback play, which, I mean, we've seen it happen time in and time out. If Daniel Jones can win the job and maybe you just needed a change of scenery, maybe that is the way. I mean, kind of like Baker Mayfield or even Sam Darnold. So maybe the ceiling is there for this team. I'm with you, though. I do think this would be the team. It's tough. Titans going into it, same kind of thing. What are we going to get from Cam Ward? And it kind of depends on the quarterback play, but that 3-1 to win the division I think that is a good bet.
Yeah, just again, and we'll get to Jacksonville later in these previews. You know my thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. I'm just not as high on him as a lot of people seem. And again, first-time head coach in Liam Cohen. And Houston, again, where are they more like the team Stroud's rookie year that has this huge ceiling moving forward, or are they more like last year that kind of just fell into winning the division and then smacked the Chargers in their first playoff game? So the feeling about them was a lot different than it would have been if the Chargers went in there and won. It'd been like, Stroud went backwards in year two and such, which again, I don't know if that's 100% fair. The offensive line was terrible yet again in Houston, but we'll have more of that on the team preview for the Texans coming a little bit later.
Where are you with Jonathan Taylor going into the year? We know he has dealt with his injuries.
Taylor, if he stays healthy, will be a top 5 running back. It's as simple as that. Will he be healthy? That's kind of the question with all these running backs at this point. By the way, you see both Indianapolis quarterbacks on the left side of the screen for comeback player of the year. Jones has, look, I don't see a path where Anthony Richardson wins comeback player of the year. I just don't see it because of what happened last year. I just can't get over the taking yourself out of the game thing. And I don't think the voters will look past that as well, even if Richardson has this huge year. And again, we've said this on other editions so far. Eden Hutchinson's the guy to beat. I don't care that Dak is a favorite at some books. Hutchinson's the guy to beat in this award. But Jones has a path. Indy surprises, maybe wins 11 games with Jones at quarterback, wins the division. Yeah, there's a path for Daniel Jones. I just think there's too many guys in front of him, Hutchinson and Dak specifically, that are more likely than not going to have better years. And if Hutchinson wins Defensive Player of the Year, I don't know if anyone's catching him in that comeback award this year.
Honestly, I don't hate it for either of them. I get what you're saying with Anthony Richardson, but I mean, if he does have an outstanding year and is more of a team guy and a leader, and they add all of that into it, but I mean, I do think that both of them I could definitely make a case if this, I mean, especially if this team can win the division.
Who starts week 1, Alex?
Daniel Jones.
I'll go opposite. I still think this has to be Richardson's team until it's fully proven he can't play. Keep in mind, he's only 23 years old. Like, that's the bizarre thing with Richardson. Had no experience in college, came in extraordinary, was one of the youngest top 5 picks in NFL draft history, and he's still only 23. There's a lot of ball in there for Richardson. But again, if you made me pick, I do think Richardson is the week 1 starter. But boy, if there's any doubt, we know these NFL teams always go with the quote unquote less risky option.
Yeah.
So you may see Jones start week 1. I don't. Floor is lower with Richardson, but that ceiling to me is still way higher than it is with Jones. Your range is compact with Daniel
That's
Jones.
Fair.
If he's your week 1 starter, or you're starting more than half of your games, unless of course again Richardson gets hurt, then whole different ball of wax.
Where are we with Coach of the Year?
Yeah, you can go to Coach of the Year real quick, Ryan, with Steichen, who look, he's 27-1's the best number available of the guys in the AFC South. Of course, I don't see a path for Ryans unless if Houston like pops a random 14-3. Of course, Brian Callahan's on the left side of the screen. I don't see that at all. I think Ward would get the credit more so than Callahan. And then Liam Cohen's the interesting one in this division, which we'll get to when we preview Jacksonville. But yeah, I think the path for Steichen, again, with a lot of these guys, especially with a mid-tier win total of 7.5, you win a division, you win 10, 11 games, you have a path. You have a path. Now, I know I've said this on another team, and when we get to the Bears and the Patriots, it's going to be the case on both of those two favorites. If Chicago somehow wins the NFC North, Ben Johnson might be unanimous. If New England makes the playoffs and Chicago does not, Mike Vrabel is going to win that award. Like the path is so crystal clear for the two favorites this year. It's hard to even look at anyone lower than both Vrabel and Johnson going into the year. But again, we got a lot of football to be played, as we know. I wish there was a little bit. If Steichen was sitting where Todd Bowles is at 50-1,
yeah,
I think I'd say that's worth a little bit of a flyer. I don't think it's worth a flyer 27-1.
I could just see them overachieving and kind of stumbling into winning this division because it is a weak division, but I don't know if I can see and quite get there with the 10-11 wins. So that does make it tough.
Yeah, I mean, 9-8 could win this division. And 9-8, I doubt 8-9 would win the division, but 9-8 could get it done, especially if Houston. Just, again, Texans have had a very bizarre offseason. So, again, the path is there for Indy or Jacksonville, depending on which team you happen to like better. I think you and I like Indy a little bit better than Jacksonville at the current moment, but Indy's range is super wide because if the quarterback play stinks, they could go 4-13, and there's a whole new regime in Indianapolis. Ballard and Steichen would be out in that scenario for sure if Indy bottoms out here in 2025. All right, that's what we got for the Indianapolis Colts. More previews, of course, coming through the next few weeks here on Sports by the Book. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. If you're watching us right now, hit that subscribe button. We're live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern time, giving you the best in sports betting every single day. Live as always from the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas here at the South Point Studio. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again next time right here on the NFL previews for the 2025 season on Sports by the Book.